Aviv and from Haifa and from Toronto. I'm Jay Shofet. Iris Hann, our CEO, is with us, and Avi Sadiv in Toronto, our Canadian SPNI office, doing back office today. He's doing it on and off now with Lawrence Casimir, who's off and on with us. Lawrence is a new father at home this evening, and we've been having Zooms all day, including a Zoom with our board members in SPNI in the last few hours. They heard all about a new project. Tonight we'll be talking about the tragic oil spill and its ramifications in Israel. Welcome everybody. I think we're going to be getting going now. Welcome to our yet another around 35th of a series in webinars we've been doing every couple weeks for a year now. We'll be doing them throughout this coming year. We're going to have a special 100th anniversary webinar coming up with Professor Yossi Leshem, and another webinar, a magical, wondrous bird migration festival live. Lawrence had a boy named Kobe Yaakov. He was going to name him Spike for coronavirus, but named him Yaakov.
Jay, we're also live on Facebook.
And we're live on Facebook. Welcome all our Facebook audience. I don't know how many people we have there, but we've been doing some digital marketing on Facebook, so we have probably some new people on Facebook. Anyway, tonight we're going to be talking about the tragic oil spill and its ramifications, and I'll get to that in a second and introduce Iris, who will be presenting for us tonight. I just want to thank everybody for supporting the emergency campaign that we've had up till now. Those who have and those who have seen it, maybe not everybody, but we will be launching this week phase 2 of the campaign, and that's what we're going to hear about now from Iris as well. You know, I learned once, I just want to thank everybody again, also our dedicated board members in the United States and in Canada, also in the UK and in France. You guys have been very helpful, as you always are throughout the year. Thank you, Avi, and our Canadian friends for hosting this webinar tonight. See, we have close to 100 people already here, and I'm sure another couple dozen on Facebook. We're thrilled that you can all be with us again in this busy week before the Passover holiday. And you know, I learned from in some speaking class I had once that if you really want your message to be remembered and understood, I mean, there are a lot of tricks, but one of them is to say what you're going to say it, and then to say what you just said. And I think we won't recap Iris per se, but I do want to tell you a little bit what Iris is going to say because it's important, and I'm just going to put it out there when we begin. This was one of the worst environmental disasters in Israel's history. The oil spill happened sometime in early February. By mid-February, the tar and crude oil were washing up on Israel's shores from north to south. And Iris is not just our steely-eyed CEO of a large environmental organization. She is a very caring volunteer who immediately went out to the beaches in Haifa area, and I think throughout Israel, and with those first wave of volunteers, collected tar from sandy beaches, and we'll be reporting. So what we're going to do is Iris is going to report briefly on our own efforts and in general the national efforts on the cleanup itself up till now, and report on the status of the spill as we know about it now, and then basically get into the real meat of what we want to talk about, which is two areas: the medium-term and long-term ramifications, both in terms of cleanup and how we're not going to just clean up these beaches, but we are going to perhaps partly through this change the whole culture of littering and cleanup in Israel through a new app that we're launching. But before that, she's going to talk about the real long-term threats to our beaches and to our pristine marine environment. And that is because we are Emirati oil will be in large numbers with large tankers being transported through the Eilat port from the UAE, according to a new agreement that was signed recently with the after the Abraham Accords with the UAE. The oil is going to be transported through aging pipelines to Ashkelon for export to the Mediterranean, and really, really, really putting at risk one of the most important natural assets of Israel, the coral reefs in Eilat, hugely important to the world as well. So we need to prevent this huge folly in the making from happening. And that's what Iris is going to be talking about. Together with that, we have to work on the Maritime Readiness Law, a law that was passed in 2008 but never implemented. And maybe we should mention briefly Israel's economic waters and legislation around that we need to advance as well. But that's what we're going to talk about. Iris is going to do that for, 20, 25 minutes, half an hour or so. And we will then have questions and answers. And hope you all enjoy it. Please join me in welcoming Iris Hann. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, good morning, good noon. Well, I'm happy to be here, but the subject of the talk is not so happy. It's now the first day of the spring, and everybody, or many people in Israel, not me personally, but many people in Israel and abroad are busy in cleaning the house for Pesach. And it's a Passover, and it's a good time, a good opportunity to speak about cleanup. Not clean up in the house, but clean up in the outside, in our nature, in natural spaces. And I'm gonna divide the talk to two parts. You're sharing the presentation, Jay? I'll do it.
No, not, Iris.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay, we'll divide the talk to two. The first one, we're going to refer to the marine area, and I'm going to speak about the tar disease, which is more pollution than littering. And the second part, and I'm going to divide this part of the talk to two, the short term and the long term. And the second part, I'm going to talk about the terrestrial areas of Israel and speak about the efforts to clean up, to make a cultural change in the terrestrial areas of Israel. So all the talk, we're going to speak about cleaning, keeping our nature clean, like we're trying to do in our homes before Passover. So I'll try to share the presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Full screen though.
In full screen, you see it in full screen?
No, not in full screen yet.
No, just a moment. View full screen mode. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So the photo that you can see here, it's a photo that I took. In the next slide, it's the same turtle, dead turtle, that I found in Haifa Beach. I live in Haifa Beach, 2 weeks ago. And the photo that you see in the here down in the same slide is another photo that I took northern to Haifa, few days after the disaster happened. In Kiryat Yam, it's northern to Haifa, and we are now in mid-March. We're not done. This disaster is not behind us. The oil spill happened somewhere in early February, and after more than a month of cleaning, we are still getting waves of new tar. Less than the beginning, but we still get waves of new tar that arrives to the beaches. Here you can see the damage to the sandy beach, like you see here in the photo. But the damage was happened not only to the sandy beaches, but also to the rocky beaches of Israel, two types of habitats that we have along the coast of Israel. It's easier to clean the tar, to pick the tar and clean the tar from the sandy beaches. It's much more difficult to do it from rocky beaches, from the beach rocks along the coast. And it has to be done done with spoons to scratch it out of the beaches. And here in Haifa, for those who got to visit here in Haifa, we have the Shikmona National Park, which most of the coast is a rocky coast, or we have beach rocks, and it's much more difficult to clean these beaches. It's difficult, not so easy to do it in the sandy beaches, but in the rocky beaches, it's even much more difficult. So as we mentioned before, Jay and me, in the first days, everything happened after a very big storm. So it took few days till we understood what's happening, and only when the storm calmed down, we could go to the beaches and we saw the damage. We didn't realize in the first days how big is the damage, but in the first days we focused on cleaning the beaches as fast as we can, because every day or every hour that people or tractors or vehicles moved on the beach, they and stepped on the tar, it was much more difficult to take it, to collect it after it. So it's much more easier to do it in the first hour, and it's easier to do it early in the morning, because as it gets warmer, the tar melts and it smells and it melts, and it's awful. So the first days, the effort went to cleaning the beaches, and we as SPNI, with the coalitions of NGOs, with governmental agencies like the Ministry for Environment and the National Park Authority, we all work together to go all over the beaches of Israel and pick the tar and clean the beaches as fast as we can. Like many good things, the success, or the key for the success, is working together in coalition, as I mentioned before, and we worked with other NGOs. We leaded in a few spots over the Israeli beaches. One of them is in Hadera, one is in Haifa. We were the leaders, and we ran the information spot in these two places, as you can see here in the slide. And thanks to the fact that we have units all over Israel, but especially all over the coast, we could respond very quickly and give answers and be in the field wherever we were needed. So this was the efforts where the efforts were focused in the first days. I can say that it was very warming to see so many people, so many volunteers coming to the beaches day after day, especially in weekends, people from all ages, from all places, from all over the country, and just crawling on the sand and picking these little pieces. Some of them were big, but some of them were very little pieces of tar, collecting them with gloves and crawling on the sand, and for hours picking tar after tar, little by little, and cleaning the beach. It's a kind of Sisyphic work, but there is no way how to make it shorter, because it's a lot of tar and a lot of work to do, and so many hands of volunteers were really warming and helped us all to cope with this challenge. So this was the short-term effort. It is not, we're not behind it. We still have work to do, but in very specific places, more in the northern side of Israel. The southern coasts are much more cleaner, but the main effort was done in this field. You can see here more photos from people collecting the tar from the coasts of Israel. But as you can see here, the main effort for now is okay, is not only coping with what happened, but being ready for the next day and focusing on how to prevent another disaster like we experienced in the Mediterranean Sea. And now we are moving from the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea. And as you can see here, there is an agreement, as we know, an agreement. It's a confidential agreement between Eilat Ashkelon Pipeline Company. In Hebrew, it's called KATSA. It's initials of what you see here, Eilat Ashkelon Pipeline Company, and the Emirates to use a kind of to use the pipe from the Red Sea to the to the Mediterranean Sea, and being or using Israel as a kind of a bridge to ship or to import or export oil from the Emirates to Europe. So the plan, as we know, is to bring ship vessels, big vessels, to Eilat, and to move the oil to the pipeline, ship it, not ship, run it through the pipeline to Ashkelon, then load it again on vessels from Ashkelon port and move it and ship it to Europe. Now it happens as well, but very, very few vessels do it every year. For some years, even no vessel did it. It's happened once in a year or once in a few years. But as we know, the agreement will cause or will lead to a situation that dozens or even more than hundreds, 150 vessels every year will come to Eilat and full of oil. And you can just imagine what is going to happen to this beautiful coral reef, as you can see here in the slide, in the photo. If one small oil spill will happen, and the oil will get, and it's so close, and so everything is so small and so dense in the Eilat Gulf. All these coral reefs are in a very huge danger. And this coral reefs along all over the world, all over the globe, are exposed to the consequences of global warming, the bleaching phenomena, as you know. But this coral reef is a unique one because this is one of the northern coral reefs all over the world. I know that there are a few more coral reefs in Japan, which are northern coral reefs as well, but in our area, it's one of the most northern ones in all over the world. And it's very interesting and a very unique coral reef because it is much more resilient or much more, forgot the word, Jay, can you help me? Can cope with the global warming because of its of the place it is. So it's a very important coral reef in international scale, and we have the duty and the right to keep it. And every accident that can occur in this area is a very big disaster. Now, this is a very big challenge because all the agreements are confidential, and they even didn't get to be discussed in the governmental table. Even the ministers didn't discuss it. And it's a kind of a situation that we cannot agree with. And we are fighting with the SPNI, with other NGOs, to discuss this agreement by the ministers. and to stop it. The main goal is to stop this agreement and not to let any move or any move of vessels full of oil coming to Eilat port. Eilat is a very unique city that is based on tourism, based on these natural assets, and exposing this beautiful area to such a disaster is a huge mistake. So this is the effort that we are focusing now. The channels are, of course, public, using the public or calling the public to take part in this fight, writing emails, in the Facebook, in the social media, writing letters to all the ministers, checking or examining the other routes like going to court. We're checking all the channels to stop this plan. Here you can see this is the Dead Sea, the Red Sea, Eilat Gulf. So this is one of the main efforts that we are dealing with now. Another effort, we are going back to the Mediterranean Sea, is as you can see here, regulating Israel's economic waters. We have a law referring to the economic waters of Israel. The law is not updated. The law is from 1953, much before we knew that we have gas in our waters. Many years before we knew that we're going to have gas platforms. Many years before we knew that we are going to be based on desalinating water from the sea. The regulation is not updated, and it should be updated very quickly. It's urgent, but as we understand, for everybody, it's very convenient that everybody can do whatever he wants, and the law is very old, and it's very comfortable for the Ministry of Infrastructures, for everybody. And we are trying to push for this law to move forward. Now we're 2 days before another elections, so it's not a comfortable time to. It's impossible to promote rules and acts these days, but it's. I hope it's going to happen after the elections. Another effort is going to preventing gas exploration in ecologically sensitive marine areas. 2 weeks ago, we have been in the Supreme Court of Israel. We appealed, trying to stop exploration in one of the most sensitive areas in our deep waters. It's called in Hebrew, Afra'at Palmachim. It's a kind of, it's a very unique area with corals, very deep corals, and methane springs, and all kinds of creatures that you can find only in this place in the deep waters of Israel. And in spite of the fact that this area is so sensitive, even according to the Ministry of Infrastructures that made a survey to the all deep waters of Israel, there are plans to drill and to find gas in this area. Unfortunately, we didn't succeed we didn't have success in the Supreme Court, and our appeal was rejected. But we're gonna keep trying, because sometimes positive changes takes time, and it doesn't happen in the first time, and the second time we're not going to stop trying. More effort is to stop new gas and oil exploration in our economic waters. We are now working on, we also already sent a letter, and the next step is another appeal to the Supreme Court, trying to stop all the new gas and oil exploration in our economic waters of Israel. About half of our economic waters was already marketed to companies that are making explorations in the deep seas, but the other part is still is free from exploration, and we are trying to stop or to keep this situation and protect this half part of the deep seas. We don't have in our economic waters any no protected areas, and we're trying to promote protected areas in the deep waters besides the efforts to stop new explorations in these areas. And the last point here is implementing the Marine Disaster Preparation Act, which was we have governmental decision from more than 10 years ago, 2008. A decision that had a budget beside it and had everything. It was a very detailed decision, but not all the decision was implemented. And now what we see now in the last few years, we see more economic activity. We see much more things happened in the deep sea, but we don't see the efforts that the ministry, the government itself decided that should be done beside the development efforts. So we are trying to make this decision to be implemented. It's very sad to say that disasters are good opportunity, or gives us a kind of opportunity to leverage the disaster to make this such decisions become to being implemented. But this is what happens now. We're using this disaster to make the government designate the budget, so if such another disaster will happen, we'll be much more ready for it. There is a question now in Israel where we still don't know if we could prevent the disaster, or maybe to shrink the size of the disaster if we were we had more readiness for such an occasion, like if we could define the oil spill before the oil before it came to the beaches in the deep sea. There are techniques that we can prevent all the oil from coming to the beaches. So I hope such a disaster will not happen again, but if such a disaster will happen, such an accident, or there are a suspect that it was not an accident, it was made by forgot the word, but I hope that if all the budget will go to the right places, the Ministry for Environmental Protection will be more ready for such an occasion in the future. I hope we will not have to cope with it, but we have to be ready. Here you can see photos from the Red Sea, from Eilat. from an oil spill that happened a few years ago in a very small scale. So you can see what happens in such a sensitive area in small scale, and you can just imagine what will happen if it happens with big vessels, with the oil that comes from the Emirates, and we have no other choice but to stop it from happening. We cannot put in danger the coral reefs in Eilat Gulf. Okay, we'll move now from the marine area to the other parts of Israel, to the terrestrial areas of Israel. And here you can see the two slides of a new application that we launched 2 weeks ago. It's called Bishvil HaTeva, which in Hebrew it has double meaning: for nature or on nature's trail. It has double meaning in Hebrew, so it's a nice word. The application, which can be downloaded by free, of course, have few goals, as you can see here. The first one is to engage Israeli people, especially youngers, but not only, to clean up an issue. Israel is it's not nice to say it, but Israel is dirty, and the open spaces in Israel are dirty. And what we are trying to do in the SPNI is trying not to clean up Israel. The name is Clean Up Israel for the efforts, but what we're trying to do is to make a cultural change, like we did about 50 years ago with the wildflowers in Israel. People in 50 years ago, even less, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, used to pick wildflowers in Israel in a very nice campaign, which the SPNI led. People stopped picking wildflowers, and we are trying now to do the same thing, the same process, with the littering culture. So the first goal of the app is to engage Israeli, to raise the awareness about the issue, to create data all the time, to create, as you can see, a cleanliness index. So in a national scale, we can see every moment what is the situation. Now we have close to 400 spots, natural spots in Israel. We can see in every spot what is the cleanliness index, not only the cleanliness index, but also the density or the crowdiness index, how this place is crowded. And with this index, we will be much more equipped to cope with this national problem. I'll show you, it's the next slide, just a moment. What we're trying to do now, just a moment, I had a short video that shows the how the app works, but I cannot see it here. Can you see the video?
Not yet, but I think it's linked in there. If you
yeah, I did. Okay, I push it. You cannot see it?
No, we're just looking at the cleanup screen.
Okay, and now?
No.
What I have to do is to stop sharing, and now I'll share again. Just a moment. Now it's going to work. Now you can see it?
In a second. Yes, now we're seeing it.
Now you can see it. Okay, so here you can see a demo of the app. Everybody can see. I'll try to stop it for a minute. It works this way. Everybody, when you get into the app, you can see from every place you are 10 spots, natural spots. Like here, you can see here down in the slide. 10 natural spots, and you can navigate when you choose one. You can navigate to this spot. So what we're trying to do is to give motivation to people to download the app, because it gives information and help people to navigate to natural sites, and it's a kind of thing that can interest people and give them something in return, not only to report if it's clean or not clean. So everybody can see the 10 spots like this, and to every spot you can see here, you can see the spots moving here. It's in Hebrew, but you can see here, this is one of the spots, and I'll stop it just for a moment. Okay, just a moment. Here, I'll stop for you. You can see in every site here a leaf. The leaf says, or here this area shows how clean is this site, and the green area shows these people. You see 3 people here, how this area or this spot is crowded. So everyone that navigates to a place, to a spot, can know from the app how clean is the place and how crowded is this place. And he can go, when he gets to this site, he can report. With this, you can see a very nice app. You can report if it's clean. So the when you go up, it's clean, and you see the plant growing. Or how it's crowded. Here you can see how you report. It's very intuitive, very friendly, and there is a place for more information and a photo, and everybody that use the app gets points, like in Waze. Using Waze get points when he reports and use the app. I'll go out from this, just a moment. Okay, what we're trying to do now is we're focusing. You can see the presentation again.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's stuck now. It's not cooperating. Just a moment. What we're trying to do now is to encourage people to download the app. In the first 2 weeks, we have more than 14,000 people that downloaded the app. We're trying to build cooperations with private and public sectors to increase the use of the app, and we're trying to leverage the app to make more or to build more awareness, and to increase the awareness to this to the cleanup issue. I hope that we have a very nice success. Meanwhile, I hope that in a few weeks, we'll have after Pesach, Passover, when many people go out to nature, we will have many people that will report in this app, and we're going to have a nice map of map of Israel that will show the cleanliness index, and then we will be able to move forward and to cope with this a very big challenge. I wanted one more thing to add, that we have 9 short films, videos that will help us to explain few issues that refer to cleanup efforts in Israel, like many people in Israel, not many, but there are people in Israel that go to outdoor to do a picnic, to go to camp, and they sit outside and celebrate and so on. And the Israelis used to like to bring a lot of things, a lot of food, a lot of equipment and so on. And then there is a lot of garbage in the end of the celebration or the meal. And the people, this family or whatever, takes all the garbage and pack it very nice in a plastic bag, big plastic bag, and goes to the garbage cans, and the garbage cans are full. So what the average person is doing? Putting the garbage bag near the garbage cans and say, okay, somebody will come to pick it. And some people even go one step further and take the garbage bag and hang it on the tree. I don't know if it happens only in Israel, but it's a very strange manner. People, I want to believe, do it from good reasons. They don't want animals or the wind or whatever to tear it. But what happens after one night when you leave plastic bags near the garbage or hang it on the tree? It's animals, wild animals come at night, and everything is teared and goes all over the place. So people that leave the garbage plastic bags outside, they are like, what happens is they just like left it in the nature. And one of the films deal with this in a very humoristic, in a short video of 2 minutes, deal with this kind of behavior and trying to explain people in a very humoristic way not to do it. And if there is no place, no room in the garbage can, take the garbage with you and throw it in a closed and a safe place. So like this, we have 9 more videos, and every video ends with an invitation to the people download the app and be part of the national effort and personal and national effort to clean up Israel. So these are the challenges now. They are very big challenges, but I think there is it's a very good time and very good season to deal with it. I want to close up or tie all these things with what I started. We are now working on cleaning the houses, cleaning our homes, and nature is part of our home. So we have to keep our nature clean from pollution and clean from littering. So these are the 2 main challenges, and I think it's enough to begin with, and I'll be happy to open it to discussion, questions, and so on.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Iris. Toda rabah. I like the Pesach tie-in. And as the rabbis say, though, don't go crazy. Unlike as the rabbis say in Israel, which is don't go crazy with the cleaning. We can't be too careful in cleaning up Israel and in changing really the whole culture of littering, which is really the goal, and pollution, of course. The concept of how it's really scary, the potential of oil spills. We know it's just a question of when and not if. Even the smallest spills from the smallest mistake in a port like Eilat could be hugely damaging for those coral reefs. So thank you for that. So listen, we have a lot of questions that have come up already. I do just want to say before we start, I want to thank everybody again for supporting us in this first phase of the emergency campaign. I think we began it on February 24th. And we've raised some $40,000 online and another $10,000 or $15,000 offline for that first part of the campaign. And that money has gone to the initial cleanups efforts, to organizing them and transporting volunteers in our communities, and to some of the initial legislative work and policy work and research that we're doing for preventing the next oil spill from happening, and for beginning to launch the cleanup app. And in the second phase of the campaign, which we'll be launching formally to people on our contact list tomorrow and later in the week digitally, we'll be raising a lot more money. We're going to raise our goals both for online donations and for major gifts offline, trying to raise a total of $150,000, $180,000 for all of our research, policy, lobbying, and community activism efforts for the three things Iris talked about: the preventing the next disaster by reversing the oil agreement, protecting the economic waters, and doing the Marine Preparedness Act, and also for continuing launching of the app. So that will all be coming up in your inboxes tomorrow or throughout the week on social media. And Iris, we have a bunch of questions, so
Okay.
I will start asking them. Some of them I might be able to sort of get on my own. Oh, I see we've received more. The extent of the oil spill north to south, Iris, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was basically from the very northernmost beaches almost to the Gaza border, if I'm not mistaken. Correct?
Yes. I also heard that in Lebanon, there was the pollution got to Lebanon as well.
Absolutely.
We had more pollution in the northern coast of Israel, from Rosh Hanikra, from the border, and in Lebanon, as I know. The southern coast didn't get so much pollution. The source is from a ship that was in the southern part of Israel, and what we know is that the gulfs, the waves, took it northern to the northern part of Israel.
A couple people are asking me what caused the oil spill. Who, what caused it? What do we know?
What we know is we know it from the media. The Ministry of Environmental Protection said that the source is an Iranian ship, and it was made by intent, was intended. But it's still in investigation. So what I hear is only from the media. So maybe it's a kind of ecological terror, but there are so many vessels that full of oil that ship all over the coast that it can happen. And I also heard that we know that many vessels use in the usual manner that to clean the vessel, they spill oil. I will not say usually, but it happens. What happened now that because of the condition of the sea, because of the storm, maybe because of the amount of the oil, it's caused such a disaster, but it can happen.
Right, right. I will just say that as opposed to the Minister of Environmental Protection's take that it was environmental terrorism, many other people think that it was probably a pirate ship illegally transporting oil. It had turned off of its black box, its transponder, in order to not be detected by maritime authorities looking for pirate ships, trying to skirt commerce laws. So whatever it was a bad deal. Back to our questions. How many turtles died in the event, do you think? And what other organisms died and how many? What was the extent of that damage?
Oh, I don't have now the number. I can try to find it, but many things that we don't know. It's very hard to measure, especially what happens in the deep sea. And there are consequences that can be seen only after a few weeks or months or sometimes years. If a turtle is dead in the sea and sinks to the bottom of the sea, nobody can see it. We see only what is waved to the coast. I think that if I remember, a few dozens of turtles were found in the sea. The turtle I found is from 2 weeks ago, so it is not the end. Right. Nobody can say how many animals were hurt. were
Right.
dead.
Right. Good points. And there was, of course, the whale, though, that was washed up and was the autopsy showed it was full of, and its internal organs were full of tar and oil. So that was very sad. How was the crude oil and tar disposed? The oil and tar that you collected, how was it disposed of?
It was carried, or supposed to be carried, to a special place that is designated in Israel to this type of waste, dangerous waste.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a dangerous material.
Hazardous waste disposal.
Hazard. This is the word. Hazard waste.
In
Yes.
the Negev, probably, right?
In the Negev, and it was, we were instructed when we cleaned the beach, we were instructed to carry two types of bags, a bag for the regular dirt or regular thing that you find in the beach, and another type of a bunch of bags for the hazard waste. So we had to separate them. Yeah.
Ofer Inbar asks us, will you give us advice on how to help prevent this oil agreement and add legal permanent protection for the Gulf of Eilat? Advice for both people in Israel and abroad. That's just a big question. Supporting us is the way to do it. We have a crack team of nature protection professionals, including people involved in planning, in lobbying, in the legal lawyers, environmental lawyers on staff. And we have a whole plan, which we will be unveiling, as I said, in the next couple of days to do these things. I don't know, do we have a petition at the moment in areas in Israel in Hebrew?
We have a petition. And we are going to use three main types of acting. One is public, one is legal, and another one is lobbying. You mentioned all these three ways of acting, and we're going to use three of them.
And community activism. We're going to keep pressure. We're going to have the public involved in keeping pressure.
The public. This is the first point. The public. We have a very strong community in Eilat. We have field school in Eilat, and where the field school team is very active in this fight. And yes, we're not going to stop, and we are working on this issue in a coalition with more NGOs. And
we are
a very big fight.
And we are, as I'm sure you all know, we are 2 days before a national election here. We're currently talking to all the political parties to get them on board, regardless of whatever coalition happens or doesn't happen. We could be on our way to a fifth election in the next few months. We don't know what's going on here, but it's not going to be dull. Anyway, Murray asks, and I'll just answer this, Aries, if we stop the agreement, our agreement, can't they just send the oil to Aqaba on the other side of the Gulf, and the oil spear will have a severe impact on the coral? They can't do that, because the whole point of getting it to Eilat is that we have that pipeline that gets the oil to the Mediterranean to export for Europe. It's all about making money for the people that are exporting and transporting the oil. Jordan is landlocked other than the Red Sea, and it can't help out that way. So,
but no, we are worried about it. It can happen because they can use Aqaba, and then we are worried about it.
And build a pipeline, use our pipeline.
Yes, maybe. I don't know. It's not such a easy or simple solution, but
it's not crazy.
We are not quite, it's not the first time I hear about it.
Okay, that's interesting. But I guess the good news is that we have such bad relations with Jordan at the moment that that might not happen. But I guess
I hope so, because when money speaks.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. Other than that, I should say that, I think as citizens, I don't know if I can speak for Aries, but other than that, the agreement with the United Arab Emirates, or the Abraham Accords, and the whole new approach of the Gulf, I mean, it's not without its issues, but it's a really interesting, positive thing for Israeli society, for the business sector. So much high-tech agriculture, the green revolution that happened in Israel, they're looking for so much of that technology. So there's a real upside to all this agreement as well. Somebody read, and I read something about this too, somebody read that they thought the turtles were being fed with mayonnaise. I thought they were being cleaned with mayonnaise. Did you read that, Iris, anywhere? I think it had to do with oil and egg combination. I don't know, Jana, maybe.
I heard about it. Yeah, I heard about it now when you say it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I read something about that when the Exxon Valdez oil spill. Who's at fault? We've kind of talked about that. We don't know yet. Can we share one of those short cleanup videos? Is that something you can share on the screen, Aries?
Of course, I can try, but it's not a final version, and it's in Hebrew. I can try to share one, and we can translate it. You want me to try?
Sure, we got a couple minutes.
Okay, but in few days it's going to be we're going to release them to the public, and of course we're going to promote them, and everybody will be able to see them. I can share you one of the not final version. If you want to get a feeling of what it is, I can share one.
Iris, 1 second. I see there's a bunch more questions, so let's get to them first, and at the very end.
We'll keep it to the end.
It is a 2-minute video, so Linda in the UK asks, this is an interesting question, and I fear I know the answer, although, Linda, we're going to look. Could SPNI possibly hook up with a similar organization in the UAE to work together to stop this? Do you know of any environmental NGOs working in the UAE? Because I don't. I mean,
I know that there is a kind of a fund. I don't know if it's an organization, but it's kind of a fund that belongs to the prince.
Right, exactly.
So I don't know. It's everything is so young. We don't have yet relationship with the other NGOs in the Emirates.
Look, the truth is, I mean, I have some experience in previous roles as well. There used to be more normalization and relations with NGOs in surrounding Arab countries. Some of them do have environmental NGOs. In the rush with the Abraham Accords over the last few months, we've reached out through some of people connected with us, including some generals who have connections with military in the UAE. And there is some, obviously there's government departments and there's public sector concern about environmental issues in the UAE. Don't know of any NGOs yet that we're working with, but we're always looking out for that. Thank you, Daniel Pava, for your comment. How long do you forecast the cleanup will take, and how long will it take to get back to normal?
Oh, good question. We know from other efforts that to make a cultural change, it takes 5 years. If it's going to happen quickly, it's going to be 3 years. Between 3 to 10 years. Somewhere in the middle, 5 years. It takes time. It has to be done by education, by raising awareness, by enforcement, and by dealing with the infrastructures, not to adapt the infrastructures to what we really need. Good garbage cans, where there are garbage cans that are closed and sealed and so on. So doing all of this together with a wide coalition, especially education and raising public awareness, it takes time. It takes years, but we have to start somewhere.
That's for sure. I think he might have been asking about the actual beach cleanup and the tar. Well, you did relate to that briefly. I mean, maybe answer that in just a sentence, because we're already basically at the hour. So let's just go through a couple questions quickly.
It will take a few months to clean all the rocky beaches.
Right, the rocky beaches. Howard and other people ask about the app is called Bishvil Hateva in English.
Yes.
B'_SHVIL. Is there a plan to have an English version? I would imagine
and
not
now, not yet.
Not now.
No.
Mary, hello, Mary in New York. She asked, who's responsible for emptying the garbage cans at picnic sites? And I'll just answer that briefly. all kinds of different jurisdictions. It could be the JNF, it could be the Nature and Parks Authority, it could be the local municipality, it could be a sort of a no man's land. Very rarely it's us. We have 1 or 2 sites in Israel that we're responsible for, and our sites are leave no trace. At the Gazelle Valley Park and the Jerusalem Bird Observatory, there are no garbage cans because anything you bring in, you bring out. Let's see what other questions are there here. Alan, hello to Alan Schiff. How successful can preventing such disasters be accomplished without all of the Mediterranean working strongly together? That is a very good question. And let me just start, Iris, by saying, because I looked at this, Alan, people who know the beaches in Israel from even the 80s, I would say, when I began to be aware of the beaches, there used to be tar on the beaches. And Noah told me, Iris, that the Barcelona Accords, there were some agreements to clean up the Mediterranean in the late 80s and 90s, which really has cleaned up the beaches of Israel, and I assume most of the rest of the Eastern Mediterranean at least. Tar isn't that common a problem anymore on a regular basis. So it's true that when Mediterranean countries work together, we can keep things clean. But right now, if they're going to be transporting major oil one way or the other through the Mediterranean, how are we going to keep that safe and clean?
It's a good question, but I think that, of course, it's an international effort, but if now the investigation will be completed and Israel will have the power and the ability and will be devoted to punish the one that caused this disaster, maybe it will not happen again. So it happens it's in the economic exclusive area, but we can use legal tools in the international field, and if we'll be strong, I hope it will not happen again, or it will make the risk lower. Cool. But it's complicated. Cool. Managing the sea is complicated.
Aries, Linda Falter, who's a lovely board member of ours in the UK, says that she's worked with UAE in the past few years and they may want to work with us. So thank you. We'll be in touch. Ofer doesn't see a link in the app or in the chat. I saw Avi posted a link for the app.
I saw a link here.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Ofer, what you're looking at. You're writing in the question and answer feature, not the chat, FYI. Oh, here, there's a link now for the chat. Did I miss any questions? I'm going to go through them again here. One of the short videos. I think we're good. I think we have.
Jay, I'm not sure. Maybe I missed it, but there was one question. How many animals have you saved, and how long do you forecast the cleanup and getting back to normal will take?
We talked about both of those.
Okay,
we can't
sorry.
estimate the number of animals because some of them are in the deep sea, and Aries doesn't have exactly numbers on the bigger ones killed that maybe we counted. Total cleanup is a few months to get the beaches and not just the sandy beaches, but the rocky beaches and the rocky inlets, the rocky coastal areas that are not beaches. We wouldn't call them beaches. The rocky coastal areas, the oil and tar pool, and they cling to the rocks, and those places will take more time.
So I try to share a video.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. We're going to end with a 2-minute video. Maybe I'll narrate over it if it's.
Can you see it?
Yeah, make it full screen though. And
full screen. Okay, I'll try to explain what happens, but the photo. This is a Kziv. It's a nice place. This is a typical family. Maybe you'll translate, Jay.
Yeah, okay.
Typical Israeli.
He's got everything you need to have a comfortable afternoon in nature. He's now arranging his area, his living area.
Typical teenager.
ואחרון, אחי הקופצני, תזזיתן פרועה בלורית.
Typical boy.
Typical young male behavior.
להקה מתכנסת סביב הטרף.
Too much food.
זן זה ידוע בחוסר הפרופורציה בין גודל הלהקה לחנות האוכל.
There's a total disproportion between the need of food and the amount of food.
אבי פותחן, ובת זוגו לא חוטפת עליו את הקריזה, למרות שזו לא הפעם הראשונה, ובהחלט מגיע לו.
Okay, now they're stereotyping the man who doesn't know how to open a can.
Oh, now we get to the point.
לעשות את טעות חייו ולהשאיר את הזבל באוויר הפתוח, דבר שיגרום לחיות הבר להגיע, לפזר את ההשפעה ולנסות לאכול אותה.
If he leaves it in the open air, the wild animals are going to get it at night. But
היא מראה לאביה את אפליקציית בשביל הטבע, מזכירה לו לא להשאיר שקיות
he
אשפה.
says, Dad, what are you doing? Here, look at this app on.
אפליקציית בשביל הטבע. האפליקציה של החברה להגנת הטבע, המאפשרת לדווח בזמן אמת על מצב
This
הניקיון
shows the app.
בטבע ברחבי
Now this is not the, just a moment.
הורידו את האפליקציה
Punchline.
כדי לשמור על טבע נקי.
If the Home Alone there, they forgot.
Yeah, this is not the final version. The final version is the colors looks much better. And in the last slide, there is an explanation. If the cans are full, take the garbage with you. Don't leave garbage in the open space and so on. We don't have it in this version because it's not a final one. But it's difficult to translate it. It's very humoristic in the all the dialogues and everything.
Yeah, Israel has good political satire, so
Yeah.
hopefully this will add to the genre. Thank you very much, Iris. Thank you very much, Avi. Thanks to everybody, 75 people still with us, another 10 people still with us on Facebook. So appreciate it very much. Stay tuned for the details of the campaign tomorrow and this coming week. Thanks in advance for your support. Thanks to all our hardworking board members and staff. Good night from Tel Aviv, from Haifa, from Toronto, and Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Happy Passover. Chag Sameach.
And happy Election Day. It's
Happy
National
Election
Holiday
Day.
in Israel on
Happy
Tuesday.
spring.
And yes, and happy spring solstice today. Absolutely. Very important. Thanks, everybody. Bye. Bye. Avi.
תודה.
Toda.